Okay, so for the next video, we're going to talk about a part of the brain called the limbic system. Now, the limbic system is going to be a series of brain tissue that connects our diencephalon and our cerebrum. So it's an area that's going to be involved in two basic brain processes. The first one is going to be memory formation, and the second one is going to be emotional production and control. So we're going to control our emotions and we're going to form memories. So let's get right into the limbic system. So here it says the limbic system's the basic survival functions, and it's going to be involved in memory, reproduction, nutrition, as well as emotion. Now, let's get into the handout. So handout 14D is going to talk about our limbic system. And I know you're looking at this going, oh my God, there's a ton of stuff to know. I will ask you function. I will not ask you where these are located. So if you look at this, let's look at the big picture first. So the big picture is all of this kind of tubular green area is the limbic system. You see how it is incorporated into the cerebrum. So it goes right around that corpus callosum, but it also is interplaying within the diencephalon. So it's in the thalamus, it's in the hypothalamus, as well as the cerebrum. Now, there are two major things that this limbic system does: memory formation, as well as forming emotions. Okay, so let's first look at the bottom. I could start anywhere, but I'm going to start at the bottom and kind of work our way around. Now, with the limbic system, remember, I'm not going to ask you where parts and pieces are located. I just want you to know what their function is. So we're going to start right down here with the amygdala or amygdaloid body. The amygdaloid body is going to be in the inferior aspect of our limbic system. So it's kind of at the bottom. It's in the cerebrum. And it's going to be involved in memory formation and emotional reactions involved with memory. So if you are thinking of something that makes you super happy, or if you're thinking about something that upsets you, the amygdaloid body or amygdala is going to be processing that information. So we're going to be forming some memories, and then we can form emotional reactions based off of those memories with the amygdala. People that have an issue with their amygdala, if their amygdala is dysfunctioning, I guess I should say, people might have trouble controlling their emotions. So being able to control that emotional reaction is done in the amygdala. Now, just behind it, posterior to the amygdala, is another structure called the dentate gyrus. The dentate gyrus is going to be also involved in memory formation. Behind that is another area of this limbic system called the hippocampus. It also is involved in memory formation. The hippocampus does a little bit more. It helps you organize and store those memories. But the first three parts of our limbic system are all involved in memory. So we're going to be forming memories in our amygdala, the dentate gyrus, and the hippocampus. The hippocampus can store and organize that information, and then we can send it to different parts of the brain. All right. Now, as we move up, the olfactory system, our smell, is also part of this limbic system. So we have this cranial nerve called the olfactory bulb that turns into the olfactory tract and nerve. Smell is a huge part of memory. Smell is what we call a direct sense. We'll talk about this a little bit in chapter 17. But because smell is a direct sense, you form memories based on smell. This goes back to our evolution, where it was really important to make sure that we eat things that won't kill us. So smell forms memory on foods that are good and foods that we need to avoid. Now we also invoke memories based on smell. If you think about times when you've smelled something and it causes you to form a memory about something that you may not have thought of in years. You know, maybe you're walking past a bakery and you smell chocolate chip cookies, and it makes you think of your grandma because your grandma always made chocolate chip cookies. That is this memory formation involving the olfactory bulb. Smell can also invoke some emotional reactions too, right? So you get memory formation, emotional reactions because of smell. Moving up, the mammillary body, a part that you needed to know for the brain, just a part of the brain structure, it's going to be involved in recollective and spatial memory. So you learned this in lab where it was, but you may not have learned what it does. So the mammillary body is going to be involved in allowing you to recall information, and then spatial memory, where you can think of things throughout time. Like you can say, you know, I went to Disneyland when I was 10, and you know, last summer I went to Chicago. So you can think about spatial memory and relate that to how old you were or what year you did things. But the mammillary body is also involved in recollective memory, just recalling things that you need to know, like what was that girl's phone number? I really want to know so I can give her a call. That's involved in the mammillary body. Right above that, we have this area called the septal nuclei. It is going to be stimulated more of an emotional response due to reward and reinforcement. So your septal nuclei neurotransmitters in that area are going to fire when you're rewarded and when you are getting reinforcement, like positive reinforcement. So you may be releasing things like dopamine into the septal nuclei when you are being rewarded and reinforced. Above that is this area called the nucleus accumbens, and it says this is also going to be stimulated due to reward and reinforcement. And this says additive behavior. It should say addictive behavior. I apologize. So this is another area where a lot of dopamine is being created. You get lots of dopamine, and that can lead to addictive behavior. It stimulates this part of your limbic system called the nucleus accumbens. Both the septal nuclei and the nucleus accumbens are going to be activated during any time we're rewarded or reinforced, which leads to addictive behavior. I mean, just think about your cell phones, for example. So your cell phones, you become really addicted to them because it stimulates these areas of our brain. We release a lot of dopamine, and that reward and reinforcement every time you get a like or every time you get a comment or some kind of little acknowledgement through social media, it stimulates the dopamine in these areas, and you become addicted to that. So watch out, cut back on that social media stuff. Then we have above that, we have this area right in the cerebrum called the cingulate gyrus. This is going to link behavior to emotion. So some people have trouble controlling their emotions, and that leads to behavioral outbursts and things like that. That could be due to this cingulate gyrus. And I teach high school, and I've had some kids throughout the years that have behavioral issues. They have emotional issues. That could be an imbalance in the neurotransmitters that are moving information through the cingulate gyrus. Above that, we have the Mammillothalamic Tract. The Mammillothalamic Tract is going to connect the mammillary body to our anterior nucleus. So it's just a transport system from the mammillary body to our anterior nucleus. And the anterior nucleus is going to be involved in working with alertness, learning, and episodic memory. Episodic memory is that memory that you have when you don't really play a movie in your mind. Like if you think about let's say a trip you took last summer, you can kind of play a movie in your mind about that. Well, episodic memory is more like pictures. So like when you think back to when you were 5, you may not see it as a movie playing in your mind, but you may think of it as pictures. Like I remember when I was like maybe 4 years old, I had a colorful like red, blue, and yellow truck. And I remember sitting in the backyard playing with it, but it was so long ago, it's more of an episodic memory than it is a movie playing in my mind. Another connector is the Stria Medullaris. This carries signals to and from the amygdala. So our amygdala, remember, is forming memory and emotional reactions to things. And this Stria Medullaris is going to be moving information to and from that amygdala. The fornix, which is something that we learned in lab as well, it says it carries signals from our hippocampus to the hypothalamus. So our hippocampus is a memory forming part of the limbic system, and it's going to be transporting information to the hypothalamus via the fornix. So we are moving information from the hippocampus to the hypothalamus. So, this could be important information on homeostasis. This could be survival information that we want to remember. Don't eat that plant. That kind of thing. We can store memories in the hippocampus. And then finally, we have this Straya Terminalis, which is going to be involved in emotions. This is a connector in the limbic system that's going to be dealing with stress management. How do we handle that emotionally? How do we handle that with memory formation? The Straya Terminalis is going to be dealing with stress management. So with the limbic system, remember the big picture is it involves two major things: memory formation and emotional response. And so each individual part plays a slightly different role in that, but it's still those two major functions. All right. So that takes care of handout 14D. And I'm going to go into the next video talking a little bit more about the limbic system before we move on.